It all began with the toys. The ones we cherished, the ones that held the secrets of our childhoods, and perhaps something more. These were the toys that transcended mere playthings, objects so beloved they became icons, passed down through generations. Yet, as much as they brought joy, a lingering question has haunted their legacy. What do these toys truly hide? Every Christmas morning, toys appear beneath the tree, a tradition as old as the holiday itself. But among the dolls, trains, and action figures, there are whispers, rumors of origins steeped in mystery, stories of prototypes that vanished, and even peculiar events tied to the most iconic creations. Could it be that some toys carry secrets their creators never intended to reveal? Take, for example, the tale of the world-famous teddy bear. A cuddly companion for millions of children, it became a symbol of comfort and warmth. But few know that its inception was tied to a strange hunting trip involving a US president and a bear cub that seemed almost unnatural. Witnesses from that trip described the bear's behavior as eerily human, sparking not only the creation of the toy but a century-long fascination with its origins. Then there's the case of the rocking horse. A staple of nurseries for centuries, it has been a source of endless joy for children. Yet, in the early 1900s, a series of incidents connected to handmade rocking horses shook local communities. Owners reported hearing faint neighs in the middle of the night, with some claiming the toys seemed to move ever so slightly on their own. While dismissed as overactive imaginations, these stories left an indelible mark on the toy's history. For Clara, a grandmother preparing for the holidays, these stories were nothing more than folklore. She had spent her life collecting vintage toys, each one holding a memory of Christmases past. But this year, as she dusted off a decades-old Jack-in-the-Box for her grandson, she noticed something odd. The toy, long silent, played a hauntingly familiar tune when wound, a melody she couldn't quite place, but that stirred something deep and unsettling within her. And then there are the toys that seem to evolve beyond their creators' wildest dreams. Take the iconic Rubik's Cube, designed as a puzzle to challenge the mind. Decades later, stories emerged of cubes solving themselves, spinning as if by an unseen force. While some attributed this to clever mechanics, others whispered of experiments conducted in secret by the cube's inventor, seeking to create an object that could think. This theme of toys taking on a life of their own stretches beyond isolated cases. In the 1990s, a series of interactive dolls hit the market, promising to engage with children in ways never seen before. These dolls could speak, recognize phrases, and even respond to touch. But reports soon surfaced of the toys acting outside their programming, speaking unprompted, recalling names or phrases their owners swore they'd never taught them. One parent described hearing her child's doll whisper, "Don't forget about me," after it had been left in the attic for years. Despite these chilling accounts, the allure of these toys remains undeniable. They remind us of simpler times, of the joy and wonder of childhood. Yet, for every happy memory, there's a story that raises the hairs on the back of the neck, a reminder that even the most innocent objects can carry shadows. What makes these tales even more fascinating is how they tie into the psychology of play. Experts have long studied the bonds children form with their toys, often describing them as extensions of imagination and emotion. But what happens when the toys seem to form a connection of their own? Could there be more to the stories of Jack-in-the-Boxes with peculiar melodies or self-solving puzzles? Could our beloved childhood treasures be more than just reflections of our imaginations? As Christmas approaches, these questions linger in the air, like the faint scent of pine and cinnamon. Clara, now wrapping the old Jack-in-the-Box for her grandson, couldn't shake the feeling that this Christmas might be different. Somewhere in the familiar creak of the toy's handle, in the haunting tune it played, she felt the stirrings of a story yet to be uncovered. A story that might reveal the truth behind the toys that marked generations. And so, the stage is set. From teddy bears to puzzles, from rocking horses to dolls, each toy carries a history steeped in wonder, mystery, and perhaps even the unexplained. But the deeper we delve into their stories, the more we must ask, what do these toys know about us that we don't yet know about them? As Clara placed the Jack-in-the-Box under the tree, memories of her own childhood Christmases filled her mind. She remembered the simple joy of waking up to find gifts waiting, the wonder of tearing open wrapping paper, and the irreplaceable magic of believing in the impossible. Yet, as she thought about the stories surrounding her collection, she couldn't help but wonder, were these toys merely conduits of joy, or did they hold secrets woven into their very fabric? The Jack-in-the-Box wasn't the only toy in Clara's collection with a peculiar history. Among her treasures was a spinning top that had belonged to her father as a child. The top, intricately painted with celestial designs, seemed ordinary enough, until Clara noticed it always stopped spinning on the same constellation, no matter how it was launched. Her father had joked about it when she was young, calling it his magic top. But as an adult, Clara had begun to question whether there was something more to it. The exact constellation? Lyra, known in mythology as the celestial harp. Toys like this are often dismissed as curiosities or coincidences, but the stories attached to them endure. Consider the infamous case of a porcelain doll named Lila, which became a sensation in the 1940s. Crafted by a master toy maker, Lila was known for her strikingly lifelike features and intricately detailed wardrobe. But as families passed her down through generations, strange incidents began to accumulate. Owners reported that her glassy blue eyes seemed to follow them around the room, and some even claimed she appeared in places where she hadn't been left. Lila's most unsettling feature? Her delicate hands, which were said to feel warm to the touch, as if alive. Stories like Lila's tap into something primal, a blend of fascination and fear. Toys, after all, are designed to bridge imagination and reality, allowing children to create worlds where anything is possible. But what happens when the line between imagination and reality becomes blurred? This question has haunted collectors, psychologists, and even toy manufacturers for decades. The fascination with toys that seem to transcend their intended purpose isn't new. Archaeologists have uncovered artifacts from ancient civilizations that resemble rudimentary toys, from carved animals to spinning discs. These objects, thousands of years old, often carried symbols of protection or magic, blurring the line between play and ritual. Could it be that toys have always served as more than entertainment? Could their origins lie in something mystical, something designed to connect us to forces beyond the ordinary? Modern toys, too, have had their share of mysteries. Take the wildly popular Tamagotchi of the 1990s, a digital pet that demanded attention and care. While millions delighted in keeping their virtual companions alive, a small subset of users reported eerie glitches. Some claimed their Tamagotchis spoke in distorted text, leaving cryptic messages on their screens. Others described an unsettling feeling of being watched, as if the toy knew more about them than its simple programming should allow. These tales may sound like urban legends, but they speak to a deeper truth. Toys have always had a strange power over us. They evoke nostalgia, spark joy, and sometimes unearth emotions we can't quite explain. For adults, this connection is particularly potent. The toys we once loved as children become symbols of who we were, of a time when the world felt limitless and full of wonder. Clara's grandson, Oliver, was too young to understand this yet. At 6 years old, his fascination with toys was pure and unbridled. When Clara told him about the Jack-in-the-Box, his eyes lit up with excitement. "Does it still work?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. Clara hesitated. The toy's haunting melody lingered in her mind, but she nodded, deciding that Oliver's curiosity was worth indulging. After all, toys were meant to be played with, weren't they? That evening, as Oliver twisted the Jack-in-the-Box's handle, Clara watched closely. The toy creaked and groaned as if protesting its age, but the melody began to play nonetheless. When the clown finally popped up, Oliver squealed with delight. Clara smiled, but a chill ran down her spine. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, she thought she saw the clown's painted eyes flicker, as though alive. Meanwhile, stories of other mysterious toys were spreading online. A viral video showcased a vintage toy train that reportedly moved without tracks, gliding across a collector's living room floor. Another featured a marionette that seemed to dance without strings, performing intricate movements no puppeteer could replicate. The comment sections of these videos were filled with debates, some claiming hoaxes, others recounting similar experiences. Clara couldn't help but feel a connection to these stories. As she tucked Oliver into bed that night, she thought about the role toys play in our lives. They are companions, teachers, and sometimes, keepers of our secrets. But could they also be something more? Could they hold fragments of the lives they've touched, absorbing pieces of the people who loved them? The answer, Clara suspected, might lie in the stories themselves. Each tale, whether true or exaggerated, pointed to the same conclusion. Toys are more than objects. They are vessels of memory, wonder, and perhaps even mystery. And as Christmas approached, Clara found herself drawn deeper into the enigma of her collection, searching for answers to questions she hadn't dared to ask before. As the days counted down to Christmas, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that her collection of toys held more than sentimental value. They seemed alive with stories, some enchanting, others unnerving. It wasn't just the jack-in-the-box or the spinning top. There was the wooden soldier that her great-uncle had brought back from Europe, a relic of another era. Clara had always admired its craftsmanship, but she'd recently noticed something odd. The soldier's painted expression, once cheerful, seemed to have darkened over time, as though it were observing the passage of years with a quiet, knowing gaze. The more Clara thought about it, the more questions arose. What was it about toys that made them so compelling? Why did they evoke such deep emotions, even in adulthood? And why did some seem to carry an aura of mystery, as if they were keeping secrets of their own? Around the world, stories of enigmatic toys have persisted through centuries. One of the most famous involves a set of marbles from the 1800s, said to have been enchanted by their maker. The marbles, crafted from glass so clear they seemed to hold entire worlds within them, were said to bring luck to anyone who owned them, until a boy reportedly used them to cheat in a game, only to lose them in a river the following day. No one ever found the marbles, but sightings of their shimmering light beneath the water have been reported ever since. Then there are the tales of the music boxes, delicately engineered to play melodies that transport listeners to other times and places. One such music box, known as the Lullaby of the Lost, surfaced in a London auction house in the 1930s. The seller claimed it had belonged to his grandmother, who would only play it when she was alone. It was too beautiful to share, she had reportedly said, but the melody carried a haunting quality, and those who heard it spoke of vivid dreams that left them feeling as though they'd visited another world. For Clara, these stories no longer felt like distant folklore. They felt close, almost personal. That evening, as she prepared for bed, her thoughts drifted to her own childhood Christmases. She remembered a particular doll she'd received one year, a porcelain beauty with golden curls and a velvet dress. Clara had loved that doll, but something about it had unsettled her. It always seemed to be watching, its glassy eyes reflecting the glow of the fireplace. One night, she swore she'd heard it whisper her name. Now, decades later, Clara wondered if that memory had been a figment of her imagination or something more. She decided to search her attic the next day, hoping to find the doll and perhaps lay her unease to rest. Meanwhile, the world seemed to be rediscovering its fascination with mysterious toys. Online forums buzzed with discussions of vintage collectibles and their strange behaviors. A popular podcast explored the history of cursed toys, including a chess set said to predict its players' moves, and sometimes their future. The host recounted chilling anecdotes, from a woman who claimed the set had warned her of a betrayal to a man who insisted it had saved his life by urging him to cancel a dangerous trip. For collectors and enthusiasts, these tales were irresistible. They scoured estate sales and online marketplaces, searching for objects with unique histories. Yet, for every discovery, there were whispers of caution. Some toys aren't meant to be played with, one collector warned. They carry too much of the past with them. The next morning, Clara climbed into her attic, the scent of dust and old wood filling her senses. She sifted through boxes of ornaments, photo albums, and forgotten keepsakes until she found it. The doll. Its velvet dress was faded, its curls slightly frayed, but its glassy eyes remained as vivid as she remembered. For a moment, Clara hesitated. Holding the doll felt like holding a piece of her past, a fragment of a time she'd both cherished and feared. That evening, she placed the doll on her mantel, hoping to share its story with Oliver when he visited. But as the hours passed, Clara began to regret her decision. She could have sworn she left the doll facing forward, yet now it seemed slightly turned, its gaze directed toward the jack-in-the-box. She adjusted it and went to bed, dismissing the incident as her imagination. Elsewhere, similar stories were emerging. A collector in Paris reported a set of tin soldiers that appeared to march on their own, their tiny metal feet leaving faint scratches on the polished wooden surface where they stood. A child in Tokyo described her stuffed rabbit humming lullabies in the middle of the night, a sound her parents dismissed until they heard it themselves. Clara's unease grew as Christmas Eve approached. The toys in her home, once sources of joy and nostalgia, now felt like something else entirely, pieces of a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. Were these objects truly alive in some way, or was it the weight of memory, of stories passed down through generations, that gave them their peculiar power? As Clara sat by the fire that evening, watching the doll and the jack-in-the-box, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of uncovering something profound. The toys seemed to hold a truth she hadn't yet grasped, a connection to the past that stretched beyond her own memories. What secrets did they hold, and why did they feel so alive? Christmas Eve arrived with an air of quiet anticipation. Snow fell gently outside Clara's window, the lights on her tree casting a warm glow across the room. Yet, despite the festive scene, the atmosphere felt heavy. Clara couldn't stop staring at the doll on the mantel and the jack-in-the-box beneath the tree. It was as if the toys were waiting, watching, for something to happen. Oliver would be arriving soon, eager to open his gifts and play with the toys Clara had lovingly prepared. But as Clara waited, a thought struck her. What if the stories were more than just folklore? What if these toys, these seemingly innocent objects, carried pieces of their creators, of the lives they'd touched, and of the moments they'd witnessed? Could they, in some way, be alive? Not in the traditional sense, but as vessels of memory and emotion. The jack-in-the-box sat quietly under the tree, its painted clown frozen in a perpetual grin. The doll, however, seemed different tonight. Its glassy eyes, reflecting the flickering firelight, appeared almost thoughtful. Clara shook her head, laughing softly at her own imagination. "They're just toys," she whispered, more to herself than to the room. When Oliver arrived, his laughter filled the house, cutting through the tension like sunlight piercing a cloud. He darted toward the tree, his excitement palpable. "Can I open it now?" he asked, pointing at the jack-in-the-box. Clara hesitated for only a moment before nodding, her smile returning as she watched his joy. Oliver wound the handle, the familiar melody echoing through the room. As the clown popped up, Oliver giggled uncontrollably, clapping his hands. "It's perfect, Grandma," he exclaimed. Clara's heart swelled with relief. Perhaps she'd been overthinking. Perhaps the toys were just that, cherished remnants of simpler times. But then, Oliver turned his attention to the doll. "Who's this?" he asked, reaching for it. Before Clara could respond, A strange sensation washed over her, a mix of déjà vu and something she couldn't quite place. The doll's presence felt different, heavier, as though it held a story waiting to be told. As the evening unfolded, Clara found herself drawn to the stories of the toys around her. She told Oliver about the spinning top and its celestial markings, the jack-in-the-box with its haunting melody, and the doll that had both delighted and unsettled her as a child. Oliver listened intently, his eyes wide with wonder. "Do you think they remember, Grandma?" he asked softly. "Like, do they remember you?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with possibility. Could it be that the toys weren't just reflections of the past, but keepers of it? Clara thought of the countless hands that had touched them, the lives they'd been part of. Perhaps these objects were more than physical. They were threads in a tapestry of shared history, connecting generations through something intangible yet deeply felt. Later that night, after Oliver had gone to bed, Clara sat by the fire, the doll in her lap. She studied its face, its painted features so delicately crafted. For the first time, she noticed a small inscription on the back of its neck, a name nearly worn away by time, E. Finch. Clara's breath caught. Her grandmother had often mentioned a toy maker named Elias Finch, a man known for creating living toys, though she'd always dismissed it as a family legend. The room felt still, the only sound the faint crackling of the fire. Clara placed the doll back on the mantel, her mind racing. Perhaps some mysteries weren't meant to be solved. Perhaps the magic of these toys lay in their ability to evoke wonder and curiosity, to bridge the gap between what we know and what we imagine. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, Oliver tore into his gifts with unbridled joy. The jack-in-the-box played its melody, the spinning top twirled under the tree, and the doll watched silently from its perch. For Clara, the scene felt perfect, like a snapshot of time, a moment she would treasure forever. As the day wore on, Clara realized that the toys had done something extraordinary. They had reminded her of the connections that truly mattered, the bonds between generations, the memories that shaped her, and the stories that wove her family together. In their quiet, mysterious way, they had brought the magic of Christmas back into her heart. For all their mysteries, the toys seemed to hold one undeniable truth. They were more than objects. They were carriers of love, nostalgia, and the unspoken magic of human connection. And as Clara watched Oliver laugh and play, she felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the toys, but for the stories they had told and the memories they had preserved. This Christmas, Clara realized, wasn't about solving the mysteries of her collection. It was about embracing them, finding joy in the unknown, and cherishing the moments that made life truly magical. And as the doll and the jack-in-the-box sat quietly in their places, they seemed to agree, their silent presence a testament to the enduring power of wonder. Every story has its mysteries, but the real magic lies in how we choose to explore them. If today's tale intrigued you, don't stop here. There's always more to uncover in our channel. Looking to add a little wonder to your own life? Check out the links below for carefully selected products inspired by today's video. From smart gadgets to holiday must-haves, we've got something to make your season even brighter. And if you enjoyed this journey, consider supporting our channel with a small gesture. Buy us a coffee. Your support fuels our creativity and helps us bring you more captivating stories like this one. Subscribe, explore, and let the mysteries of the season continue to inspire you. See you in the next adventure.